All right, here we are. We are live. This is Rob from Rob's School of Music with the legend, Mr. Jon Haber from Alto Music and a million other amazing things. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing fantastic. How you doing, Rob? Good to be here.
I'm doing good. I got my coffee. I got my water. I'm hydrated. My eyes don't look so hot, but otherwise I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to first off, thank you so much for your time. And thank you for just being you. Like, I was in preparation for this, like, going through my story. Like, my first guitar lesson was at Alto in Muncie when I was 5. And then all the way to my first guitar was purchased at an Alto Music, going up to Middletown on the weekends with my dad and just kind of hanging out there and probably being annoying to everyone, but usually buying something expensive. So it was okay.
Oh, yeah. Guys have
good taste. Yes, it's a blessing and a curse. And then kind of just into, you know, the first Rob School of Music being in Airmont, and then just sort of your guidance along the way. So thank you for all of that.
Hey, happy to be a part of it. Happy to be a part of it. Alto has a big history down there. You know,
yeah.
It's open in 1966, so a lot of people have stories, you know, way, you know, before me as well, you know, so.
So how did you get into it? Because at first you were just working there, right? And then.
That's the first job I had. I was taking classical guitar lessons. I think I'm like 15 years old, and I had asked for a job. I used to go in, I think it was like Fridays at like 6 o'clock in the evening. I took these classes. I wanted to learn how to play, you know, proper classical guitar. And I had asked for a job. One day I walked in for my lesson, and Harvey goes, "Hey, kid, you still need a job?" That's basically how it started.
Wow.
And yeah, so I started, I don't know, a week or so later. I used to have the driver's education class drop me off. I remember I take driver's ed on Saturday mornings, and they would drop me off, you know, at the end of the class. And
wow,
I worked like a day or two a week in the beginning.
How does that segue into partnering up with? I guess you partnered with Harvey in that location in Middletown. Was there just the Muncie location back then? I don't know.
This is now, you're talking this is 1981. So I'm 16. I mean, I'm a kid. I'm like in 10th grade,
right,
when I started working. And I always had the job. I worked a couple days a week. I was in a band and we were gigging a lot, but I always had kept the job at Alto. I went to school over in Purchase, so I was full-time, and I still worked while I was away. I never went away to college, so I was able to maintain that job, you know, my whole you know, teenage years into my 20s, and I learned a lot doing it. And so you know, by the time I was 22 years old, or still a young kid, right? But I already had 6 years of experience doing that. And I knew a lot of, you know, just by sucking it all in,
right.
I knew I was able to sell stuff. So then at some point the band thing got a little tired. I go, I'm going to open a store. I wanted to do something on my own like that. And my uncle, he's the one who came up with the idea initially, and he loaned me the money to open my first store in Middletown, which was 1989. So I was 24 when I opened like my own business.
That's awesome.
And I thought I knew stuff, but I didn't really know anything. I figured, how hard could it be? That's kind of been my mantra my whole life. Everything I do, and a lot of it I've had no experience doing. I just like, I'll figure it out. You know?
I like that.
So so that's how that happened. And we opened in 1989. In Middletown, in a little strip mall store, about 20 square feet.
That was my, you know, because growing up for me, the Muncie one, we would go hang out. But then when I found out about the Middletown store, my buddy James popped in here, the original Middletown location, such a special place. Like, that was the one where we would go, you know, it felt like it's like a sleepover almost, because we'd be there all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And it was just like a toy store. And there was nothing, you know, there was the Sam Ash and stuff. The Guitar Center wasn't around yet, but it didn't feel like real people. That was my favorite experience about ever going into any one of your stores, is the guys there never feel like they're just selling you something to sell it. Everyone just really seems to, you know, maybe they care. I mean, maybe I'm misreading it, but it seems like they're trying to put the best piece of equipment in your hands for what you're looking to do and that you can grow with.
I mean, you're only as good as your weakest link in life, right? So our people really are what, we don't bat 100%, nobody does, but We have really good people here, and a lot of people that are here today are folks that started while they were in high school and have been here 20 years.
Right.
You know, I've seen these people grow up. I've seen them meet their wives. Some people met their wives here. They got kids. There's kids running around all over the place. I probably wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for Alto.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, just noticing, watching, like you see the same faces, like in no business, especially sort of a retail kind of business, do you see the same guy for a couple of years, let alone 2 decades. So that's a testament to your leadership and just the quality of the thing you've created. So
I'm just trying to do the right thing, not be a dick, you know.
that's our sound clip from this.
Treat people how you want to be treated. Yeah. I do my best, you know. I don't always succeed, but I try.
So it was the Middletown one, and then you partnered into Airmont/Muncie?
Airmont was, I had nothing to do with Airmont with Muncie store at all at this time. That was a separate business.
Gotcha.
And the next thing we had I opened, as I said, in 1989 in Middletown. It was the end of the year. It was in a recession, but we did really good. I mean, I remember those days. I mean, I didn't even know, like, we just bought some fixtures, put some guitar stands up. I mean, you know, not different than what you're doing, right? It was a very similar thing. Get a place, kind of, you know, you figure it out.
Right.
Your heart's in it. And I knew I wanted to, you know, you just treat people good and people, you know, gravitate to you. It was a different time. But we did really, I knew that the area at that time would support a store because a lot of people from up here used to drive down to the Alto in Muncie. And I had a bunch of customers when I was working in Muncie that they drove to Middletown.
Right.
I was just a hunch. I mean, again, I'm 22, 23 years old when I decided to do this. You know, there was never any like real data crunching. There was no data, right? There's no computers. But I had a feeling this was a rock and roll town. They used to have the Orange County Fairgrounds are right next to where we are now. Big concerts. So I would get calls. I remember like driving up a bunch of certain drumsticks, Regal Tip. I forgot what the exact models were because 38 Special and Night Ranger were playing, and they couldn't get the sticks up here. You know, they used to have shows up here, big time shows. I mean, it was on the circuit.
Wow.
You know, people played the Garden, people played National Coliseum. They played the Orange County Fairgrounds. That was a big. Guns N' Roses played up here.
Wow.
And literally the next property we bought her on is where that was happening. So I knew there's a rock and roll town. There's a lot of people into rock and roll. So when I opened in '89, there's a lot of bands up here. A lot. The guys from Skid Row, like Robert Fusos from Newburgh, which the drummer, Scotty Hill was a Middletown guy. These guys were all around. It was a pretty, you know, for like it's kind of out of the way, and much less popular, you know, at the time, much less populous than Rockland County is where you are, and you know where we grew up. But it had a thing. There was a definite rock and roll thing in Orange County at that time. I mean, there was tons of bands, tons of places to play. They had a real scene. I mean, no one's really ever discussed that, but it was. When I opened here, the musicians were just pouring in. And we did. So again, I remember I opened in November. It was like November 5th. I remember first guy who came in my store, this guy, Steve Massey. I'm still in touch with him. He's now a tour manager for like the Goo Goo Dolls.
Wow. And
a lot of Offspring. He's done a lot of big bands over the years. And he's still, all those bands get their gear from Alto. Started back from that. That guy bought the first set of bass strings I ever sold. It was Billy Sheehan bass strings, $22.99.
Wow.
Walked in the first day, his father had a video shop in the next shopping center. But to this day, we're still in touch. I mean, that's 32 years ago, right?
That's incredible.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Still, in fact, he's in touch regularly. It's pretty awesome. But that's how. So we built and we did really well. So that 1989, I think we opened first week, and we did a lot of. I mean, those, and right before Christmas, I don't remember the exact number, but we did a real number in business. We did really well just in those first 6 weeks. So I knew we had something. The following year, at the end of 1990, we tripled the size of. We just knocked down walls in the shopping center we were in, and we, you know, again, we're really feeling it all out because you know, I never had someone who, you know, who was working here who had the experience. Mine was limited. Just I knew how to sell stuff.
Right.
Basically, if you can get stuff in and sell it for at least more than you paid for it, you know, that's like you're at least going in the right direction. You know.
Yeah.
So, and that's how it started. And then there was another little music store in town when I opened, and they had the Fender franchise, and we couldn't back in that time period. You know, there used to be companies would not open every music store to sell a certain product. So, like, if you had a town with 2 music stores, maybe one guy was the Fender guy, the other guy was the Gibson guy. They were never both at that time dealers for the same product line. Now nobody gives a crap. Anybody or most companies will sell any product to anybody, whether a music store or not. Not all, but a lot. It's kind of like diminish the importance of like having some of these franchises. I mean, I see places that sell, you know, cages for your dog, you know, selling an interface. Or, you know, just back then it really meant something to have like a franchise, like a Fender guitar franchise. And I didn't have it, but the Muncie store had it. So if someone wants something, I always say, yeah, I could get it for you, drive down, pick it up, bring it back. That's kind of, but I couldn't have them like hanging up in the store. That was a bummer. So I opened another store in 1992, a couple years later. And that was a ballsy move because I really didn't have the money to do it. I said, yeah, I'll figure it out, you know.
That's Wappingers?
In Wappingers Falls, right. There was a store there called Rainbow Music. That was there all throughout the 80s. And the Fender guy who I kept pestering to get the Fender franchise for Middletown said, you know, when we heard Rainbow was having problems, they were going to close up. So if I opened up there, I would get the Fender franchise. So I opened up there in 1992. You know, opening a second store is just not having another one of what you have already. It's like a whole nother thing. Again, I had no real experience. I said I'll figure it out. But it's much harder to have another store because typically the owner of a business like myself or yourself and your business, you can't be in 2 places at once.
Right.
And a lot of it's the culture that comes down and that you instill into the people. So if you're not in 2 places, it's much harder to get that going. When I see a lot of retail establishments with tons of locations and they're all good, like you look at like a Morton's Steakhouse, right? They're all over the country. They're all good, right? So whoever's like running that place, the steak's always good, the bread's always good, it's always the same. It's like homogenized, but they were able to replicate that. And I think that's a downside of a lot of businesses thinking they could do it. That's a whole nother skill set. But I got lucky. I had really good people. Many of them were still with me today. Wasn't easy, but we got that off the ground as well. That was in 1992.
Wow.
And so we kept expanding in the Middletown location. Basically, the carpet guy next to us went out of business, so we just would take like literally sledgehammers, knock down the walls, and we'd open up, and now your store is bigger, right? That was kind of how we did it. It wasn't no architectural plans. We were just kind of winging it the whole time. Then the shade guy who sold the blind guy on the other side went out, so we knocked down the wall there. We took all that over. That's how we were up until about 2001 when we bought our own building. That was a real big move, which was a smart move to do at the time. So this building that we're in now became available. This place, I mean, at that time, it looked like the size of like the Palisades Mall. The place was friggin' gigantic. The business that was in before us had, like laser tag rooms and, motorized cars. I mean, this was a roller skating rink in the middle. When we took over, there was a concrete wall, say 4 or 5 feet, not 5 feet, maybe 4 feet high or 3.5 feet high with rebar surrounding the whole hardwood floors. It was pretty crazy. It was all like painted and kitty color. Looked like a loony asylum for, a little bit. It was it was a big move. And that was the next big chapter when we did that. And my good friend Paul Hirsch, who I could never have done it without him. To do a store that big takes so much money. I mean, just everything. It costs so much to counter and just anything you look at at that volume. So it was 2001, 9/11 had just hit. I was getting like, should I not do this? But I ended up doing it. And so we scoured all these stores that were going out of business. At the end of 2001 to 2002, there were a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to buy all this stuff for like pennies on the dollar and just retrofit it to fit our needs. So like to this day, I could, that came from service merchandise. I could tell you, that came from a piece of the old Walmart.
That's genius.
Yeah, that's how we did it. And then we would build in like the shelves behind the counter came from a service merchandise. And then Mars Music, which I remember them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big chain of music stores. They were going to come in and change everything. And they were building these 50,000 square foot gigantic places. That's a whole nother podcast to talk about that. But they went out. They started closing stores. So you want to talk about a gift? I mean, so we went down. I think we went to a few Mars stores. The one in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So you know how much those guitar hooks are. Those guitars hanging
Mm-hmm.
around. How much a guitar hook that goes on slab? Well, I don't know, $12, $15 to buy.
Retail, yeah.
So I bought a wall from Mars Music that was 160 feet long, 16 feet high, with maybe 1,400 guitar hooks and the slat wall. And when I say I bought a wall, it was like an erector set. You were able to, take it apart. I think I paid $1,500 for all of it.
Oh my God.
So, that's $100,000 right there to build a wall.
Yeah.
That long and that high. So yeah, I think I paid $1,500.
Wow.
And we had to get it, and getting it and getting it here was actually probably more expensive than what I paid for. But you think about that's just like an example. I remember that one really well. That wall's still up. We built Phil's room, the high-end guitar room is actually built. That back wall, we've since did some construction over it, but it's still here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we had that was the building of this place initially and the way we did it. That was really that's a whole story into itself, but it was that's an example of.
I remember when you got in the new Middletown location, it was like literally going in there felt like going into the Palisades Mall as a customer. It's like, we have literally unzipped music as a physical entity, and now we're standing inside of it and everything. And you always had like all the boutique pedals before that was even a word, all the guitar pedals you couldn't find, every brand of guitar, from the completely outrageously, amazingly expensive stuff to just like really good entry level stuff. So you definitely utilized that space well. And then when was I up there when I first saw it? When I was first transitioning into here. And then Keith gave me the tour of the new space, the whole shipping and all that.
That's a whole nother, that happened much later.
Yeah.
There's a big set of dynamics. So like when we opened this store in 2002, you have to remember like how retail was. It's like an entirely different thing now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like, we're like in outer space at the moment compared to what it was. So like those were big box store days, not just in the music industry, but if you take the music industry, look at Guitar Center, they will open up these gigantic stores all over the country. They had just gone public, I think in 1997. So they were raising a ton of money. The venture capital was pouring in. You had Sam Ash also opening stores all over the country as well, though I think they did it in a more controlled, prudent manner that helps them to this day.
Right.
Guitar Center is now having to close, some stores. But it's all changed now. Like the internet has changed everything. And this pandemic has changed everything. Whatever was going to happen in the next 2 to 3 decades came right in your face at one shot. It's like, whoa. So it's like to navigate what's going on now is a whole different ballgame. But yeah, so when we did all this, you had the big box store thing. The internet was nascent. It was starting to happen. Selling online was starting to happen. And we had done some of that in the late 90s, like on eBay. I remember there was no map pricing. It was like the Wild West. But I give like friends of mine in the industry are like Jim Hovey, who won't remember Victor's and Ramsey.
Sure.
In Ridgewood, New Jersey.
Yeah. The original one, yeah.
Yeah. So guys like him and Sweetwater, Chuck Surak at Sweetwater, those guys were ahead. I mean, they had a very clear focus in the late 90s or in the 90s on really where it was all going, better than other people had, including myself. So a lot of people were opening box stores and bigger stores and multiple locations. They were really had a myopic vision of where things would be a decade later, and it was the internet, and it was right, because that's where it is now. Not that there's not a place for stores, but that's where things are going, and they're here.
But you, I mean, managed to also be on that. I mean, you go to the Alto website, like it's like you're looking at the Sweetwater website. It's like you're looking at, almost an Amazon style website. Like just everything's there that you need to find. And I imagine the Extra Space in Middletown has now become sort of your global hub, right?
That's correct. And we actually, from the pandemic, we've had contractors in here almost since the pandemic started for almost a year now. We built a lot of things. We actually cut back our retail space size-wise because it's just not needed. Like the amount of resources that you have to allocate to a gigantic store as far as inventory on display, employees, it's just not practical. And there was things that have been bugging me about retail before the pandemic. And we were ready to handle all this stuff when the pandemic hit. We put a very big addition on the building, like which you brought up recently. We put a lot of money on our website, a lot of money on hiring people that, we do our own, photographs, the content for the website.
The content is like top notch. Like, is Alex still doing that?
Alex
AK?
Stuff in Brooklyn. AK, Alex Govatos. Yeah, he does all videos.
Yeah.
The videos, but we have a whole group of people here that.
It's incredible. It's literally the same as anything else. When I'm starting to try and grow my YouTube stuff, and it's like it's a lot of work to make those videos. That not the post-production side of things is a real pain in the ass, and your stuff is right up there. So
thank you.
Killing it.
We're trying, and with the internet now, is 85% of our business.
Wow.
Yes, I mean we've made dramatic changes in the store and how I'm going to deal with this. But yeah, it's been this year's been a crazy year. So I basically had to reimagine the business a year ago because it's not going back to the way it was.
Yeah,
it never is. So the sooner people are able to, take your business now. So you do online lessons, right?
Yeah, we've been 100% virtual since the second week of March, because in Suffern, the second COVID death happened right here in the village, like before New York City got crazy. And I kind of found out that was happening before it was like super public. So I was like, everything online. And now we've done over 4,000 online lessons. And when it's safe to go back, I don't know how I think it's going to be hybrid still.
Well, so like you're a smart guy and you were able to take it, you were able to keep rolling through this, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
But it's never going to go back to what it was. But now, like saying some kid can't make because he can't get a ride for his lesson. Well, hop on a computer, buddy, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So, that's, there's probably a lot of things that have happened that made you a stronger business over the last year.
Totally. And through these interviews, like we've been able to sort of expand the reach of it. So now, like, I have students in North Carolina, people in Arizona, people in Texas. So it's, the time zones are hard to work with. My drum teacher actually lives in Utah. He's teaching everything virtual, has an electronic kit hooked up through an interface. So the audio is better than when our old drum teacher was just kind of playing a regular kit through his iPhone microphone. So they're getting a better experience, though they'll never meet this guy in real life, even when, you know, so it's trying to stay ahead of it.
That you're able to do it. That's where it's going. And retail's the same way. So you have to remember, like, people were stuck at home, right? There, I don't know, a lot of people never did online banking.
Yeah.
But just people in general, right? They did it over the last year. And they go, wow, it's pretty cool, right? I used to, like, I get checks in the mail for Alto. I got to give them to the girl. My girls over here would go to the bank, or the guys, whoever's going to the bank, they do a deposit. Now I can just go beep, beep on my phone. It's in the bank. Like, why would I drive to the bank?
Right.
I mean, like, what's the point? So, so I think, you know, again, a lot of this stuff was all going to happen over the next few decades. But it all really came, you know, got pushed forward.
Definitely. And I think, you know, it's inspiring to hear about and comforting other people, you know, business-minded people saying, okay, well, exactly what you just said. It's not going to change. It's either get on the bus or get off, because you're going to get left behind. And, you know, it's cool to see how other people, like, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see some really crazy, cool stuff happening that probably right now we don't even think could be possible. Like, I've been following this company that a buddy of mine is starting to, they're like in beta right now, but they're trying to find the way that you can do the virtual jamming, because the latency, like, by the time there's like a word for how it gets, like, if I play something and you play something, by the time I get back to me, we're off time.
Well, I get it.
And they're in beta testing.
We could talk about this after the video. We may be talking to the same people, because I'm also speaking to somebody.
Oh, that's
exact same thing that you just said.
Okay, then we'll pause on that and take that off.
Yeah, that's a camera thing. NDA stuff involved. But yeah, I just, you know, with Blackline, I just did an interface. I get all this latency.
Well, that's what I was going to get into. Yeah. So how do you pivot from, okay, I'm killing it in the music retail world. Alto has become this, you know, global brand in essence, where people know they can get stuff, to all of a sudden now I'm going to do a microphone company. I'm going to do a company that does mods, but now we have our own stuff. You got that new interface, which the reviews are through the roof. So how do you take those steps?
Again, I just, like I said when I was opening the store, I go, I'll figure it out. How hard could it be? I'll figure it out, right? You know, and I don't give up. And I may not be the smartest guy in every room I'm in, but nobody works harder than me. So, like, if you believe in yourself and you just really put in the effort, generally you can make good things happen. So with Alto, I'm in a petri dish, right, every day for musical stuff, right? So I know what, over the years, I've known what customers, I hear what they want, or I know what they're buying. So I was able to see holes in the market that weren't being filled. So some of these stories are kind of long, how I got into it. So I started a distribution company first, Rad Distribution. And I was turned on by mutual acquaintances, like guys in Europe who were building these cool little things, but they had no presence in the United States. Distribution company, how hard could it be, right? So, all right, so I'll distribute it. I'll figure it out. So now, that's how it's really started with that. So at one point I was the Golden Age was the first big brand that I did. Bo Medina and I became good friends. I was told about him at an AES show in San Francisco in like 2007, I believe. And then I emailed the guy when I came back. I was told about his products by a German guy, and he's Swedish, the guy from Golden Age. So he made clones of Neve, who just passed away, Rupert Neve. Inexpensive clones of that style of mic preamp. So I basically just emailed the guy, hey, you need a distributor? And he was kind of feeling his way too in Sweden. He's a good friend of mine now. We're buddies. We're still together, working together. So I started marketing his products in the U.S. and they weren't available here. So if you were in the U.S. and you were on a forum and you heard about this product, you had to get it from Sweden. There was no one, or he would ship it to you directly. So I took that on because it was a cool product. It would really fill the void. We sold like 30,000 of those units. That's a lot of units. And to this day, I'm still selling the current iteration of that product. Wow. So that's how it's. So again, I got a little bit of luck there, right? That I got a product, but I was able to get it into the other retailers. So here's what, like the political dance I had to dance because I'm a retailer. Now I'm going to all my competitors.
Right.
And you guys want to buy, you want to get this. And I had pretty good success with the people. You know, I got other, you know, like AMS, Zounds, and all those, but they were carrying it. And we sold a lot of units. But then you got to start dealing with tech support. Someone, hey, this doesn't work. Oh, mine broke. Now you got to deal with RA. So now you need a technical staff to fix the stuff. So, you know, there's other things you have. It's not just getting a box and selling it to someone.
Right.
Right. Requires more capital because I'm paying in advance. You know, stuff gets put on a boat. You know, by the time you give money or deposit and then it gets to you, it could be 5-6 months. You're out the money for all that time. So there's challenges with that. You know, tech support. So that's how it really started. And then people saw what I did. So like I had some of these other little guys coming to me too. And I really, we built Golden Age into a good brand. The next big one I did was Warm Audio. I'm sure everyone knows Warm Audio. I started that company with Bryce, who's the owner now.
Wow.
He was a guy who came to me, and he would come to me. This story I never told really anybody, but definitely I'll tell you. He had bought a Golden Age mic preamp from Alto on eBay in 2010. And he was a very he was a hustler, this guy. So he started emailing me directly because he saw what I did with Golden Age. How could you help me with this? And he had a very expensive compressor of $2,000 thing. I was like, I don't really see a market. But then like 6-8 months later, he emails me. He had more of it, like an API version of the Golden Age piece. So the Golden Age is like a Neve style. The warm one that he came up with was like an API, different flavor. I go, sure, yeah, what the hell, we'll do it, right? So that's how that company started. It was me and him. I was with him for about 5 years. I mean, by that time, I had gotten a product. I mean, we blew up. I mean, we sold a lot of stuff. I don't know the numbers, but tens of thousands of all these different SKUs. So Rad was now kind of a big, became a bigger deal. Then I took on Lindell Audio, which I now own, but I started distributing that. Then Avantone, I acquired Avantone via weird set of circumstances. But anyway, I took that over. Now that was manufacturing. This is all happening around the same time. So now it's just nothing like, with Golden Age, I would place an order, I get a box, and I ship out the box, right? Now I'm dealing with, well, what does that box look like? What are the dimensions of the box? What's the packaging? Manufacturing is a whole nother ball game. It's rewarding when it works out right, but it's a lot of work. So that's a whole separate thing. You got your manufacturing, got your distribution, and you got your retail, right? So I'm pretty much doing all three. And again, how hard could it be?
Right.
How could it be? It's hard. So Avantone, I got that at about the same time as like the Warm Audio thing, and we've really grown the company a lot. The company was kind of faltering when I got it. I don't know how much longer they would have been around, but I took it over and tried building it up, just slowly but surely. That's how that happened. And then
are you part of the development of like there's the Taylor Swift mic, which I have one of those. It's incredible.
Yeah.
The Chris Lord Alge stuff. Like, are you in the trenches developing that? Are these parts? That's so cool, man.
Almost. Okay, so the microphone I didn't, because that came out before I even had the company.
Okay.
But like Chris Lord Alge. Okay, so the speakers. Okay, so I wasn't even going to make those speakers first. Remember I told you like I'm in a petri dish with Alto?
Right.
The NS10Ms, the original ones that were made, Alto Music, you know, those things used to blow up. Like the rap guys, that was like, you wanted to see that woofer go boom, 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 boom. And people would jack the high end. I mean, those things blew up all the time. So Alto used to sell all the replacement components. I mean, so I'm looking, we sold, I mean, for a store, not really online at the time, you're talking, this is the 2000s. We must have sold 800 replacement parts for a speaker. So I knew so that Yamaha had that speaker, the NS10M was an extremely popular speaker. To this day, you see them everywhere. They stopped making the parts. So I'm like, somebody needs to make these parts. How do I know they sell? Well, I know Alto sold this many. That's one store in Orange County, New York. Can you imagine how many were sold around the world?
Right.
So I said, I got to make the parts. So I teamed up with some partners of mine, and we made the parts. And we're selling. So then I said, all right, we might as well make the speakers, because you couldn't get those either. And so that's how with Chris Lord Alge, he heard I was making these speakers by a mutual acquaintance in Thailand, actually. He was doing a seminar in Thailand. And I had already had these speakers developed. And we reached out. This is like, I think 2018, maybe end of March 2018. And then I started sending prototypes to him back and forth. And he goes, yeah, let's do this. So I go, they were going to be called AV10s. I was wrong with that, but then we switched it over. I go, I like Chris. And I never really, I mean, obviously I knew who he was. We had hundreds of mutual friends, but we never really knew each other up until this. Now we're good friends. We travel together. We do a lot of cool, fun stuff. So that's how that got in. He heard from a guy in Thailand that I was doing this. So then we linked up, and then we switched the name to CLA 10s. And that's how that happened.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then so Black Lion Audio was doing like mods at first, right? And
they've been around. Yep. They're a mod house. So basically people would buy interfaces. That's pretty much how it started. You're talking, this is the 2000s. It's like the DigiDesign 003. That was the big mod.
Right. I recall.
And I knew those guys because Alto used to sell modded 003s for Black Lion. I think we're the only place doing it. And they had made a product for us, an exclusive that we sold. So I knew who the guys were. But, there was a lack of, just to put it, I mean, they were not much longer for this earth when I got them. They have maybe like another couple days. Wow. So the people who owned it, they had changed ownership a few times. The people that owned it were reaching out to me because, again, it all has to do with all the rad stuff that I distribute and Avantone that I was making. They're all a specific style of product. Right, they're all for recording. Mm-hmm. They're all in the same, same field. So people could say, "Oh, might as well call John." Let's see. So they tried to sell me Black Lion. Meantime, I'm here with Alto. I got this distribution company. I got Avantone. I'm like, dude, there's no way. I'm going to find a company in Chicago. So they called me a few more times, and I just like threw out a number that was insulting, figuring they'll never call me again. And they called me. So I go, shit, gotta go to Chicago. So I wrapped up 4 Alto guys and we flew out to Chicago. And basically I wanted the Black Lion name is a big deal. And that's what I wanted. As far as like an infrastructure running another company, that was the furthest thing from my mind. But here was a name that when it attaches itself to another product, it makes that product better.
Right.
So like, what's that? That's a value. There's something to that. Right. So where they're putting their people, Avid or Digidesign is building these 003 racks, which are extremely popular, and people are lining up to send them to Blackline so they make them better. So the name has power. So that's really what I wanted. And it's my baby now. Blackline's like the most favorite, my heart's really there with them. So I ended up taking it over, and again, it wasn't going to be around. It was done. And I said, we're going to build this up. We're going to make it into a real thing, and we're doing it. I'm very proud of that. So a lot of the product ideas, and by this time I've already had 5-6 years of either distributing or manufacturing. So I knew who the people were. I knew where I could build a lot of the stuff. I knew who some of the players were as far as distributors around the world.
Yeah.
I knew factories. While we're speaking of the, I was going to plug on this.
Yeah.
In this box is the Revolution. This is the shipping box, 2x2. This is our first interface. So we've been modding interfaces the whole existence of Blackline. Now we have, gotta get that straight. The Revolution 2x2. It's an unbelievable sounding interface. It's like all the mods are built in. So we just announced this. They haven't even hit the United States yet. So I don't think they'll probably be here hopefully in a week or two.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was, I'm involved.
Put me down for one.
So I was involved. I'm involved with much of the products that are coming out. And
that's incredible. I think that's just like, I know we're trying to cram so much information into a short period of time, but like for anyone watching, or be it a business person or just a student or just a human, like your drive and hustle is, and I hate the word hustle. It's such like a taboo, cliche, but whatever. Like your desire to make things happen. That's a cool way to say it. It's just it's contagious and it's incredible. What's a day in the life of Jon? Like, when does your day start? When does it end? Do you sleep?
Oh yeah. So I'm up at like 4:30 in the morning. A little lazy. Maybe I'll stay in bed till 5. I try to work out in the morning, like just get a half-hour run in or something, 20 minutes, use something just to get the blood flow. And then I'm on with China, so I'm dealing with all the factories. Remember, I can't call them at 11 in the morning; they're in bed.
Right.
If I get into work on a normal day, so I before I get here, I stop Dunkin' Donuts, get some coffee. I'm typically at this desk around 6 in the morning, 6:30. Wow. I finish up all my Asian and European partners. Again, I'm really the main guy dealing with the factories. So like this interface, that was me. I mean, I'm doing that. I mean, my guys in Chicago are the ones that figured out how to get this thing to be what it is. But as far as making that thing happen, that was me. So I coordinate with. You look at the box on this thing. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen by accident. My guys, we have a team in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This box is the nicest box you could possibly.
Great looking box, yeah.
Yeah, and the weight and the product. So I'm the guy who coordinates with the factory. The components. So like all the components inside that interface are like real premium, hard to get stuff. And there's a worldwide supply shortage on everything. So I'm trying to figure out how to get components to Asia. This is just one thing. I'm dealing with crap like this every morning. It's a lot. Then I start my day. I sit here and I see what's going on at Alto. Then I have more phone calls, and the day just rock and rolls. We have employees now in China, Austin, Texas, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I speak and Chicago. I speak to everybody all day. But we're all working together to try to make something cool. And then so I work all day, go home, eat dinner, hang my wife. I'm in bed 7:30, 8 o'clock every night. I read a little bit. I'm out by 9. I'm up at 4:30. I'm out. That's it. That's how it's.
I think that's fantastic, and I like that there is, because you see a lot of these entrepreneurial guys, and they're like, I'm up at 4, and then I go to bed at 1. I'm like, you need to sleep. Sleep is important.
Yeah, I'll be shot. I couldn't do it.
Right, and like you look at him, and like they got the IV drip of the coffee all day long, and it's like they're just a zombie. So I think it's important. something through this whole virtual thing that I've been trying to help with a lot of the students is just kind of the mental health aspect of it. Like it's okay to be not okay, you know, not going down a huge tangent, but there's a lot going on in the world and sleeping's important. So thank you for admitting you sleep. You're human.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, yeah. I can't. I feel it. Like, you know, you get a good night's sleep. It's different the next day. And exercising is a big deal too.
Sure.
I clear out a lot of my ideas, product ideas, you know, and ways forward business wise are done when I'm running. I mean, that's most of these ideas come into my head because everything else is cleared out at that point in time.
You run inside or outside?
I got a Peloton now, so I've been inside, especially with the snow. But typically, you see some old dude running kind of slow down Spook Rock Road, down Viola. That's me. I
don't know about an old dude, man. I think you're aging in reverse, to be very honest.
I don't know about that, but
yeah.
Well, thank you. So that's important too. I think it just to get some type of, you know, clarity in the head, because it's stressful doing all this, but I'm having fun with it.
Yeah,
it's fun creating something, you know.
I definitely can see that and hear that from what you're saying, and it shows. It shows in the quality of the work. I mean, like, I got the boxes, the wooden boxes that the Avantone stuff comes in. That's like, you feel like you're getting a present. You know, that's such an amazing attention to detail. And then that box you just showed me, I want to touch it. It feels like looking at it has this like almost like matte kind of thing going on there.
Yeah, this is the interface itself. This thing is built like a tank. It's all metal. It's heavy, man. Beautiful. The knobs are, how do I get this here? It's really an amazing.
That's sexy.
It sounds so great. Yeah, it's important. So if I put this in a brown bag, what's the first impression to the consumer?
Not a high quality piece of equipment.
Yeah, right. So like, you know, it's the whole experience. Like nobody really has ever done this better than Apple, right? Get a new Apple product. It doesn't even matter what that product is. Obviously, an iPhone is up, but even if you buy like a cable,
right,
or anything by them, just the way the whole packaging is, that's important.
Definitely.
That stuff
definitely.
Is
let's see, we're running low here. I don't want to keep you much longer because I'm sure your day is packed, as you've explained.
I always have time for you, Rob.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you, dude. This is like, I was talking to my dad about it. He's like, "How did you get Jon?" And like, I've talked to like giant rock stars throughout this thing, and like, I've gotten a bigger response from you than most of those other people. People are like, "Jon, how'd you get Jon? Where Jon? Like you're a legend." And I don't mean that to like blow smoke in your eyes.
Yeah, I'm a Joe Schmo sitting here every day just working, you know.
But in this, you know, Rockland, Orange County area, you're synonymous with a music store brand that it touched everybody here. I mean, like everybody has an Alto story. You know, I talked to Ryan Ball. He's like 8:30 a.m. I'm like, yeah, Jon, come on. And it's like, you know, people are psyched.
Ryan. I remember he was a little kid. I remember when he started working at Alto.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, man.
Well, we go way back. I remember your dad bringing you up here. You guys, a lot of PRS guitars. I remember Mess of Boogie Heads.
Yeah.
I remember recording gear.
Yeah.
I believe I did a show with Danny, my son's band, opening up for you guys in Nyack, and I was playing bass because they couldn't get a bass player.
Yeah, so we've gigged together.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And I still have a vivid impression of a kid in a Misfits t-shirt coming up to me after that show. Now, in the meantime, you guys are probably 17, 18 at the time.
If that, yeah.
And I'm 36. He's like, dude, nice bass playing. I remember that kid coming up to me. I still remember that.
You still got it.
That was funny.
All right. So one more business related question,
sure.
Off topic in a way. You mentioned you read before bed. Do you have any business books or just books in general that you would recommend? The reason I ask this is because I think I read a lot as well. And I think reading stuff that on business type things, biographies, that inspires me. But also it's nice to read something that's completely unrelated to shut the brain off. So the second half of that question is, how do you shut down business Jon to become, you know, dad Jon, husband Jon, grandfather Jon?
I never really shut down.
Oh, I'm looking in a mirror. Okay.
But I like reading it. Hopefully I could, you know, learn from it. You know, I try to keep up with current events. Just reread 1984. I finished that a couple weeks ago. It's a great book if anyone's never read that. I'm reading a book about the four, about Amazon, Facebook, Google, and who's the one? Fourth one I'm missing. Well, anyway, so that's been a really interesting book. Malcolm Gladwell's written some great books. There's a book, the name is escaping me now. It's about how like things and people didn't just happen by luck and necessary, like it's the 10,000 hour rule. Mm-hmm. I could Google it, find out the name. I could get back to you later on that. So like, it wasn't like the Beatles, like they used, like there's a whole section on the Beatles. It wasn't like, yeah, they were great, but there's a reason they were great. They didn't just come out and get lucky. They were playing 7 nights a week, 14 hours a day. So when their opportunity came, they were able to take advantage. Another in the book was Bill Gates.
Cool.
With the computer. How was he able to do? Well, his parents belonged to a country club that had a computer when he was a kid. So he was already ahead of the game. So a very interesting book on how
nothing by chance, really. You know, there's always
that a lot of it was really the hard work that enabled these people to. I don't know why I can't Gladflower. I can't remember the name.
So you text me. I'll throw it. I'll link it up in the.
Malcolm Gladwell's the author, though. That was a great book.
Cool.
Yeah. How about you? You reading any good books?
I'll tell you, I got this one that I just started. It's called 1 Million Followers.
Oh, great.
Because I mean, I like the Seth Godin stuff. I like his it's an easy read and he's quirky and fun. But someone on Instagram hit me to this one, and it's just, I think trying to get people to engage because they keep changing these algorithms. So it's like what worked one day, then they snap and it's gone. So putting out meaningful content that people get value from, like so many times I'll teach someone, like with virtual now, I'll teach them something and then I'll shoot them a video so they can, because they can't write in their notebook. So I'm in essence giving them a permanent copy of the exact lesson I gave them that they can now have forever. So after a while, I was like, wow, a lot of people have that. So then I started putting that actual video on YouTube. So people can, if it's a particular lick or something that I've taught someone, now anyone can watch it. And like, I'm not a shredder. I don't pride myself on being the very best guitarist in the world, but I think I'm good at conveying a message and an idea. So a book like that is helping me figure out a way to show that to people in a real way versus buy my lessons, because it's
right. No, well, it's creating goodwill.
Yeah,
and people see that, and that's what people find out about you. Let me check this guy out. It's not always about making the hard sell. Even Alto's Facebook pages, it's 9 out of 10 things that go have nothing to do with asking the customer to buy something. You want to engage with people so maybe they think of you when they do want to buy something, but just hammering sale this, sale that nonstop is not the way to roll.
I'll tell you though, the Alto Guitars Instagram, I think Rick is doing that one.
Rick McCauley.
Dude, every time, and I bought a guitar from him at Sam Ash like 100 years ago, and then when I saw him working when Airmont was transitioning, I'm like, Rick, what? You're at Alto now? It was like the coolest thing. It was like seeing like a long lost uncle. But his pictures,
great guy.
His pictures make me want to buy stuff every time he posts them. So
awesome. I'll let him know that. He's a great guy. We're lucky to have him here. Yeah, he's been a great addition to the staff. He's been with us for, I don't know, maybe 3 years now, something like that.
Well, his pictures are beautiful.
Cool. Glad you like them.
Yeah.
No, you did. Yeah. I see them too because I don't know they're going up. I mean, I'm seeing them just like you're seeing them.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. That's cool.
It's awesome. John, everything you do, again, just to thank you for having a presence. If you, I don't know, just I can't stress it enough. That original Middletown store was so pivotal in me becoming a musician. Just the way it felt up there, like Pisani worked up there for a bit. So then like it felt even safer because Tom was like an employee. We'd get those giant slices of pizza right around the corner. So it's just, everything, the First Damn Show, all of it. Thank you for, being you.
Thank you. That's my success right there. Right. I mean, hopefully more to create more musicians.
Yeah,
getting into music. I mean, that's
mission accomplished. I promise you. There's a million people out there.
So
I will let you start your day or continue your day. But thank you so much for your time. And then
almost dinner time. It's almost dinner time.
Right, I was going to say, it's almost. I'm going to go move my car because I parked illegally. I
won't say anything.
No, don't tell. This is not live. So this will be a podcast later on today, and it'll stay on YouTube for others to watch. And I'll throw all the links to everything in the information. But
Cool.
for all the companies, everything can check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Always a pleasure talking to you. Keep in touch. We'll talk soon.
100%, dude. Stay safe.
Keep up the good work. Bye.